Cool, cool. What's up, y'all? What's up? We are here. I am back, Coach Frank Clayton, from Accelerated Results Coaching with another episode number 4 of the season number 2. I'm so excited. I got my brother. I got one of my favorite coaches on today. My brother, I call him Low, y'all. I'm gonna let him, tell you what the kids call him. This is my boy Low from way back at the greatest high school there ever was, Oakland Technical High School, man. I'm so excited to have you on, brother. What's up?
Hey Frank, man, I'm honored to be on, man. People don't know that I'm always in debt to you and Coop. When I became a personal trainer, man, and I'm new to the game of personal training, you was already knee deep in. I'm like, man, who can I get some information from? And I hit you and I hit Coop, and you guys quickly gave me all the information I need, what I could do. You offered me to come train down at the Bladium if I need to pick up some extra pointers, man. So I'm honored, man, to do anything you got going on, man. You got this going on, you're coaching, whatever, man. You need me. I'm ready to rock and roll with you, man. So I want to thank you for that, for weaving way back then. That's like Prince was young, so that's like 2013-ish,
Right,
2012.
right.
So, man, I appreciate you, man, and I admire it because I didn't last long in the personal training business. So for you guys that's able to go for a sustainable amount of years, I tip my hat to that, man.
I appreciate that, man. Like I said, man, we go way back, and it's so funny. I want you to lay out some of the accolades because you've done so much in the realm of sports, from an athlete to a coach. I just want the people to know a little bit about what you've done, because it's so crazy just thinking back, dude. Just high school, in the back of the class, we cutting up in certain classes, just to think, where you've come from as a teenager to where you are now, man. I know that
Hey,
journey is wild. So I just want the people to know some of the things. You're a world-class athlete, man. Some of the things that you've done in your
man.
career.
So let's just say the journey wasn't easy due to all of the things that you mentioned, man. But it was an honor, man. I remember when I got to junior college, I had to go the long route. I went the junior college route and became a junior college wide receiver, all state, right? And I knew I was good at that, right? But I indulged in track and field for the first time ever and end up being good in that, right? So I end up accepting a track scholarship to Arizona State, right? So I was
Right.
junior college All American in track, junior college wide receiver in football, but I never ran track before that, man. There was two reasons made me go run track. One, I said I'm gonna get faster since I'm in college now, and then when I got to go to track practice, I'm like, oh, it ain't no girls at football practice. It's girls here, right? I like this sport, and I just happened to be winning and end up getting a track scholarship to Arizona State University. This is when it was the Pac-10. Became a Pac-10 champion in our 4x4 relay. Became an NCAA All-American, and all
Nice.
these different things, man. Went back and tried to go do football again, man, because it was some issues at Arizona State with track and football. So I went to Lincoln University in Missouri, you know, then came back to Arizona State. So it was a long little journey, man. On what I did to try to stay involved in it. Sports was my life back then, man. And it wasn't until it's still my life now. Actually, now I think about it, because I went
Right.
from the athletic side to the coaching side. So it's still my life, man. And having children, we know how that goes, man. So I'm excited, man. I feel I left a lot on the table though as an athlete, right? I feel I left a lot on the table as an athlete due to um class clown, upbringing, attitude, not really feeling entitled, but feeling I was good so I could get my way type of thing. You know what I'm saying? And I think that hindered me in the long run.
Right. And you know what's funny is, like, that was the persona in the 90s of wide receivers, right? So many wide receivers was like, look at me, I'm the show. And so I don't think you should feel bad for that. But you took the long route, but eventually you got to coaching, man. And so just thinking about that, and we actually played against each other.
We
Now that
did.
I think
We
about it,
did. We did.
Chabot and Laney had some battles when we both were there. But thinking about it, coaching, like, what does coaching mean to you now? Because you've transitioned, like you said, sports is your life. You transitioned from the athlete to a coach. So what does coaching actually mean to you?
So it's crazy. So I never got asked that question before, but when I think about it in hindsight, coaching to me always was to be to someone what I needed for myself growing up. Right? So I wanted to be that person to anybody, not just my kid, but any kid that I seen that needed some of the stuff that I didn't have as a coach, as a mentor, father figure, because we raised these kids as well, So most of the things is like, man, just being someone that I needed and just putting that into the kids, right? Helping them understand. I don't want to say their purpose because I don't feel like football and sports be their purpose, but helping them try to get to their purpose through the sport, if that makes sense, right? So to me, it's all about, man, helping them young men become young men and seeing the value in them as a person. That's my whole giddy up on why I stayed coaching for so long.
That's dope, man. To be what you needed, right? To fill that gap and know that people are coming behind you. That's dope, man. And so that kind of ties into my second question. Like, why did you choose young athletes?
So it's crazy, right? So at first I started, shout out to Big Green that offered me, hey man, come coach over with us at Monroe Catholic, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, cool, I'm gonna take it out. Monroe Catholic was a little too far at the time. I'm living in San Francisco.
Right.
And I'm like, hey, I can't even get to Monroe Catholic all the time. And then my son started playing, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go down here because I want to help with the development of the young kids. He was 5 at the time. And when I got there, it was like, you'd be surprised that when you take your son and you're coaching, that you just adopt so many other kids, like just adoption, and you seeing the void on what each kid have, right? And a lot of the time it was the single mom homes and all of these things. So now you really like, okay, this kid needs help with this parent need help, right? So once I became involved in that, it was like, okay, now I'm in it with the youth. I'm in it with the youth. It's a different culture than what high school was, but it was cool. It was rewarding, I would say. It was definitely rewarding.
So being that, your son started to play, so you can see where Coach Prime is coming from, right? Like we, they showcasing he's all the rage right now. Deion Sanders is making his mark at an HBCU, moved on to a bigger school. Like, what's your thoughts on him? This has been a conversation, man. Should he leave?
Man.
Should he stay? Like,
I'm conflicted, man. I'm conflicted. I don't want to get into conspiracy theories and stuff. Like, I don't want to do that, right? So on one side of the coin, I understand. I understand why he moved away from me, right? But on the other side, I'm like, you should have stayed, man. I feel like your purpose sometimes be bigger than money, And I feel like the purpose in what he was doing was channeling and changing what everyone knew HBCUs to be, right? So then when he transferred out of there and left, and he took 4-star, 5-star recruit with him, it makes the ones that's coming up after that be like, I don't really want to go to a Jackson State no more. I don't really want to. Why do I want to go there, right? So I'm conflicted on man. I think sometimes, and let me give you my theory, since I didn't want to be a theory. I believe there's ways where the NCAA, Division I Power 5 schools will say, okay, cool, let's give Deion this job over here in Colorado, right? We don't give a damn about Colorado. Let's give him Colorado, right? I'd rather we give him the money in Colorado than give the HBCU the 4- and 5-star athletes.
And that's interesting.
And that takes away from what I'm saying the purpose was. So it kind of killed the movement, and you took the athlete. We'll give you this, but we just don't want them 4- or 5-star athletes over there. Now y'all need and y'all can get the better facility that y'all complaining about.
What about from a parent perspective though, right? Because he's got 2 sons playing. Like from a parent perspective, given you got your boys playing at a school, another school comes that potentially has a better opportunity for them as a parent. Do you make the move or do you stay?
So I think, I think it's subjective, right? I think it's all subjective on the better move, right? Because when you got 2 kids, the move can help one kid and hurt the other one, right? Yes. It can help and hurt one of the other kids, right? Now, as a parent, and I hate to say this, man, as a parent, because when I just watched the Coach Prime documentary, really good documentary. I watched the first 2 episodes, really good documentary. I made my son watch it, and his thing is like, looking at the facilities, I wouldn't go to Jackson State either. You know,
Yes,
that's the
right,
allure of I want to be at the big school, right? And
right.
I understand Dion, Coach Prime, kids probably had their own dreams too. Dad, we rocking with you, we following you, but our dream was to play at these big schools. That's why I
Mm,
understand it.
right,
You
right.
know,
That's
I
another
understand it.
perspective.
I understand it, right? And it's like I told my son, like he has been for the last 9 years of us coaching, me coaching, he has been sharing me unselfishly with everyone, right?
Right.
You know, and there was a time this past year I was selfish with him. I let him be selfish. I know I'm selfish with you now, right? I'm not thinking about what no other kid got going. What do you feel you want to do? And he said, okay, I want to let's go to the Dynamites for this last year instead of playing in another league. Let's go to
Mm.
the Dynamites. The unselfishly of me was picking and thinking about what everybody else had to do with their kid. And I'm like, this is your last year. Let's go with it. You know what I'm saying? So I
Right.
understand sometimes you got to be selfish for your kids. For your kids, sometimes you got to be selfish because they have their own dreams and stuff. And we can't always think our dreams is their dreams at the same time, right?
Right. That's a great perspective, man. I didn't even think from like thinking from, asking his kids about that. And that's the beauty of like conversation, right? Having a perspective, whether he should have stayed, should have went, like I don't really should on people, but I just like to get their thoughts about it. And that's a great, great point, man. You got any aspirations of going leveling
Actually,
up?
I absolutely don't. This past year was my last year of coaching. I'm hanging it up, man. I'm gonna be a parent, man. Throughout this time being a coach, and something a lot of coaches don't talk about when they coach their kids is how it can damage the relationship with your kid. Because sometimes you don't know how to turn it off. You don't
Right,
know how to
right. You
go
always
from
coach daddy.
you don't know how to go from coach to dad, right?
Right.
You know, and the only time I went from coach to dad in all of these years was when we lost in the state championship one year, and he in tears and stuff like that. I wasn't a coach at that moment. I'm a dad now, right? But
Right.
sometimes we didn't know how to turn it off. So sometimes the me going yelling and stuff on the field carries on to me yelling in the car, yelling in the house,
Oh,
and it took away from all of that. So what I told him was, man, I'm gonna ride this thing out. We gonna finish this with you. But when you go to high school, I'm done. I'm in the stands and I'm not coaching no more. If Jace called me out one year and Jace say, Dad, can you come coach my team that I'm doing it? I do it, right?
right.
But if he don't, what I do is I put them around men that trust, that I trust, men that have high character and great values as well, right? So I don't put them in a position where it's like I can let my son play for somebody that's going to undermine the values that I have set forward, right?
Yeah.
Oftentimes when we grew up, coaches had to be the father figure. Coach
Right,
had to
right.
be this, right? I don't need you to be the father figure for my son. I just need you to be his coach, right? He got a father, he got all of this. So I put him around, and I'm gonna keep preparing to put him around great men that have great values themselves, that can reiterate some of the things that I have told him his whole life, right? So when we go forward, sometimes I don't even have to say something, and another coach will say it to him, and I'll be like, dude, I'm not the only one saying this. Like,
Right.
and he don't know nothing we talk about. So it's just the thing on what we telling you and what you need to do to go forward. And I'm like, so I'm done coaching. I'm gonna be a dad. Wherever he end up in high school at, I know he's gonna be around great people because the schools we apply to have great men there, right?
Nice.
That
I
ain't gonna
love
be
that, man. I
yeah.
love that.
So
That was actually because I was thinking about that, man. Like it's a different time now. And you've been around it, like you went through it. Like, what's the differences between you going through it and your son as he goes through it, both positive and negatives? Like, I'm interested in that. One of the things you mentioned is like for me, I didn't have like my sons are going to have their father to go through that journey with. I didn't have that. And so just thinking about the positive and negatives, what's the difference between you going through it and you think your son going through it?
the positive is the values that were set in the household by me and their moms, right? That is off top values, right? Shout out their sister. His sister graduated, went on to college, and she helped
She's
lead
an
the values as
example,
well,
right?
right?
Yeah.
So even though she was an athlete, but she didn't stick with being an athlete, you understand the value that we have was always on the education, not the sports, right? The sports
Mm-hmm.
are not the end all be all with
Right.
them, right? So some of the things I hate, and we'll talk about it later on. I don't want to jump too far, is when parents have a is you got to play sports as the end all be all or it's nothing. Like, no, that's not it, right? So some of the positives is I'm there. I'm always there. You know what I'm saying? So my presence is always seen. And not only that, so as he goes forward, like he has an advocate. You know what I'm saying? For
Right.
sometimes as a young athlete, as a young man, you really don't know how to fully advocate for yourself and get your point across. So now you have that advocate. I never had that, right? I never had no one to even just push me, right? Like we getting up in the trainer schedule of this, and I'm like, dude, you got to be at the trainer at this time. They say this is the schedule. You got to go to 7-on-7 practice. This is what it is. He has someone that's supporting it, and this is what you say you want to do,
Right. It's some
right?
accountability, built-in accountability.
This is what you say you want to
Right.
do, then this is how I know what it takes to get there. But sometimes you get tired of hearing my voice. I know what it takes. Or sometimes I
Right.
got to tell them, like, hey, I've been there, I done it. I know what it takes. Sometimes I got to let you be accountable for it, right? And they don't care what thing he wanted to choose. I remember he said he wanted to be a rapper one time. I said, okay, this is what you want to do. You want to be a rapper, you want to be an athlete. I made him stay up all night, right? Like 3 a.m. The rappers stay up in the studio all
Right.
night,
Right.
right? 3 o'clock in the morning, right? Then guess what? I woke him up at 6 o'clock in the morning for training. This is
Right.
what athletes do, right? You got to know what it is you're getting yourself into.
Come on, man. Come on, Lo.
It makes you be like, dude, damn, okay.
Dude, that's
You know,
daddying on another level, man.
yeah, so it's like you have to try to do all of these things. So it's 6 o'clock in the morning, you up, man, get your push-ups and your sit-ups in. This is what
Right.
athletes do. Then we go into the gym.
Right.
You running off 3 hours of sleep. This is what the lifestyle you're saying you want to do. So I want to let you know this is what it's going to take. And I'm gonna support what all of it is, but I'm gonna let you know what it takes, right? So that's the positive. The negative is I'm there so much. Sometimes you know you got your dad there. You're not working as hard as everyone else that you don't have that same hunger, right?
Right. Right.
I had a different hunger because I didn't have nobody, right? It
Like
was
out of
like,
desperate, like out of
yeah, it was an outlet for me. It's not your
Mm.
outlet. You're doing it because you saying you want to do it. It was like
Right.
we were coming up, you had to do it. You wanted to do it because it got you out the house. Your
Right.
in-house thing was so hard. Like, let me go outside and play football in the streets for 4 hours because I don't want to be in the house type of thing, right?
Right.
So that's one of the negatives is he always got his dad there, man. And sometimes that could be a gift and a curse sometimes too, man, because you don't understand. You are entitled, right? You do get the newest cleats that come out every year. You do get
Right.
the newest this, right? So you stop appreciating this stuff because you feel like I'm supposed to have
You
it. I've
expect it,
my
right?
whole life, right?
Right.
I got 3 pair of football gloves for each uniform. And it's like somebody ain't even got 1 pair, you
Right.
know? So it's
Right.
like you become spoiled to everything. You don't know how to work for it, or you don't understand how hard you need to work for it. And that's one of the negative components of that coach dad being there present thing.
Right. Absolutely. I think that's great points, man. All of those things can happen and change the dynamic. And then thinking about saying you're always there. Like, what's your advice, like as a coach, as another parent, like how can parents help the most? And from your coaching perspective, what are some of the worst things that you've seen parents do and some of the best things?
Okay, so what parents can do the most is one, doing your due diligence before you put your kid around certain coaches, right?
Mhm.
That's even with me, right? Do your due diligence, right? You shouldn't put your kid around. Every coach is not a mentor, right? So parents think if I put my coach son around this coach, this is a mentor, right? A lot of the times these kids save the coaches more than the coaches saving the kids, right?
Mm.
Sometimes the kid being around coach, being in that environment, saves his life from being elsewhere, right?
Right.
But he still have that mentality that he brings with him. And oftentimes kids feed off that mentality, right? So
Mm.
I'll say once the parent put their sons around a coach, be hands off.
Or daughters.
Our daughters around a coach, be hands off, right? Be hands off. Let that coach your kid, right? When my daughter ran track, it's funny you said that. When she was running track with 3M Track Club, Coach Pittman was her coach. Coach
Mm.
Pittman for years have always been the same way, right?
Shout out to Coach Pittman.
Never changed. You're the same way. Coach Pittman was the only coach that had the adults scared. Like, you go talk to Coach Pittman. No, you go talk to him, right? Because it was the way he was always the same, right? So everyone got the same Coach Pittman. And it wasn't like you go talk to him, he happy and smiling. No,
Right,
he
right.
got the same one. So I think parents always put your kids around coaches, one, that you trust. Coaches, two, that can help reiterate your values that you have for your kid, right? And then be hands off, then back away, man. Because you said what some of the things I didn't saw parents do, man.
Right.
And I didn't probably had 2 to 3 parents approach me and not in a want to fight me thing manner, but in an aggressive manner over something that's one, be out of my control. Two, is like, do you really want to talk about this right now? Like, you just lose a close game. Let's not talk about this right now.
Right.
Yes, because it takes the level headedness out of it. We talking about kids here, right? So your passion for your kids have you aggressive, right?
Right.
My passion at the time, because it changed, it switches up, right? My passion at the time for winning had me upset, and then now you starting a conflict, right? So therefore, I done seen parents do some of the most craziest things about simple shit, playing time, or why this kid scored a touchdown and mine didn't. And I'm like, that's what I knew was like, hey, this ain't, and this is one of the reasons I'm stepping away from coaching, because my last 2 years, I kind of lost the passion for it, right?
Right.
I lost going out to try to talk to kids and bring them over to the team. I just started getting who was coming. I lost, and I already knew, like, once I lost the passion, I stopped having fun with it. It was time for me to be done. You know what I'm saying? And once I lost the passion for it, I'm like, man, I'm done. But it was like, at a point in time, I didn't even have the energy to deal with hostility and parents no more. I couldn't deal with it. It's like, man, I've been doing this for 8 years. While I'm still dealing with hostile parents and the parenting culture shift, right? We'll talk about that later, how the parenting culture shift, but it all came with the allure of instant gratification. You know what I'm saying?
Let's talk about it. No, let's talk about it. That's right on point.
The instant gratification theory is I don't want my kid to sit. I don't want my kid to understand this that it's a process, right?
Right.
My son Prince always been the youngest on teams he's been on, right? So he always had some times where I had to sit and wait behind him, right? Granted, my son, shout out to Prince, man, because he worked hard and everybody got to see his hard work, right? Everybody got to see he is at the beach training. He is running his heels. And then when it paid off, it's like, he did that, right? It was one year Prince played 6 plays a game, and what's the kicker, right?
Wow.
He grinded his way to, being good, So, but oftentimes I understand as an athlete, parents don't get that. Parents is, I want my kid to score the touchdown. I want my kid to do this now, the instant gratification. If you don't honor this, next year I'm transferring and leaving your team. Now, I'm going to leave your team. I'm going to talk shit about you on social media. It's my language, right? So it becomes that, right? And it's like, why, right? So the instant gratification and the winning culture. So the winning culture came from the coaches, right? Coaches we became so fixated on winning that we just wanted the best athletes and not really developing kids anymore. We're not developing them no more. We just want the best that's out there so that we can win. Right. And then what happens when you get the best athletes, you get the entitled parents that know that their kids are the best. Now your kid's the best athlete to you on a best athletic team.
Right.
It's not the same results. Right. So that whole culture became coaches wanting to win and parents needing instant gratification, kind of conflicted with what we should be doing as coaches, which is developing them for the next phase they go to in life.
Yeah, you actually answered partly my next question. My question was, what can coaches do better, kind of to maintain or to kind of keep at bay parent expectation, but also just as a community of coaches, just knowing when I go and approach coaches about what I do and how I can help athletes, sometimes I get stonewalled, just like, oh, I know what I'm doing. We don't need your help, like all of those things. So what do you think is, and with the invent of social media, that instant gratification just gets that just accelerates it. So what do you think coaches can do better?
I think coaches as a community, one, egos got to go out the door, right? The egos got to go out the door. When we're servicing the city of Oakland, right? It shouldn't be this organization is better, this organization is better, this one is better, right? let's get the kids, man. Let's
Right.
make the kids better, right?
Right,
The
right.
kids being better, the city of Oakland as an athletics or sports become better, right? And once we get but it all stems from ego, right? It all stems from ego. It all stems from the winning culture. I don't, it might be some underlining thing at the end of the tunnel of all of this. We never know, but it become a thing where let's all just get rid of egos first. Let's help one another out. And I would love to see a thing where, let's say, Oakland Dynamites, right? If the Oakland Dynamites is going to play an elite travel schedule, when they plan the best out of states and in LAs and stuff, I would want to see where we work to, like, okay, now I know the Oakland Dynamites 13-year-olds is going to be one of the best in Oakland, and they plan out of states. If I'm another organization, man, let me send my best 13-year-olds over there, right? Let's make Oakland strong, right? And then if this organization over here go have the best 9-year-olds, hey, we know what we're gonna do. We're gonna send all the best 9-year-olds over there. Y'all gonna go represent Oakland on a grand scale, right? But it don't work like that, right? But that's what I would want to see. The communication, no egos, a meeting. On our podcast, we talk to people where in Oakland it was only one team at the time.
Right.
Everybody, you had to be.
It was that whole expansion period where all these teams came out, right?
And guess what happened? When you talk to them guys, they went years without losing, because there were only one. Granted, our city is bigger. We have 4 or 5 teams, so that just watering down the talent. It's all over, man. So I would love to see, as a community, man, it be no egos, no talking stuff about other organizations, because we out here to help the kids. And there's so many kids in Oakland, we can service them all, right? We can service them all if we have the right outlook on how we want to do it.
And I love that you're using the word service, right? Because that's really where we're at, service of others as coaches. But I was thinking about, before we get into our last 3 questions, I wanted to ask you this. Like, what were some of the challenges you saw? What were some of the challenges you faced? And then what are some of the challenges you see now when it comes to like your mentality and your emotional health when you were an athlete, and then now that you see as, young athletes coming up, some of the things they deal with?
Man, so some of the challenges as an athlete for me was the fact that, man, it's still wild now, man, but as we looked at it back then, it was Oakland was Oakland. You know what I'm saying? So things happened all the time. We were neighborhood kids, right? So we didn't have I'm gonna go way over here and play. I could play outside my neighborhood, man. But then when everything became big, as we started getting older and stuff, we started realizing outside of our neighborhood, we do things different. Now it's like, hold on, we was 9, 10, 11. How did we end up in this beef we knew nothing about, being from where we from, right? So that's one of the challenges with trying to make sure everybody came together and understand, right? True story. When I got to Tech, and I talk to people about it all the time, Tech was a divided team. Tech, like, we were all on team together, but it was divided. You know what I'm saying? So in a way, we tried to have this brotherhood, right? And for the most part, some people still had it, right? But it was still this section is this section, this section
right,
and this is this, right? So it became a thing.
West.
So after we had played football games with each other and be cool, and then next thing you know, it's fighting each other.
Right.
And it gets serious fighting each other, right? And that's one of the challenges, man. But the mentality for me was, man, I didn't have no other outlets. I didn't have all these outlets, man. It was like, and since home life was so chaotic sometimes, man, and things were so crazy, that was my safe place, right? It was my safe place. It was, man, I get 2 hours to be the guy. You know what I'm saying? I ain't been the guy never in my life, right? and I ain't been the guy never in my life. But then I get to high school, you become one of the guys. And now as you become one of the guys, there's a whole bunch of girls that's coming in with that. I ain't never had that before either, right? So it's like, okay, this is a safe place. I need, not that I can do this, I need this for my own, what was it back then? My own ego, my own self-fulfilling thing, because once I leave here, it just gets harder, right? So it's one of those things. And now the challenges for athletes now coming through Oakland is Oakland is a gang city now, right? So with all
Right.
these different things, and now it's even more because they're all cliquish, right? They're all cliquish. But the good thing is I see more fathers ever involved in
Mm.
their kids' life, right?
Yeah. Shout
So
out to fathers, y'all.
yeah, as opposed to when we was growing up and playing, it was two fathers I ever seen, right? That
Mm.
wasn't coaches, right? Now it's like it's hell of fathers,
Daddy's everywhere,
yeah,
right?
right? We see it all the time. I could go pick my kids up from school and be like, "Damn, it's hell of fathers picking their kids up."
Right, right,
Like, so that helps a whole lot, man, because fathers are there even as aggressive as they could be, the instant gratification they want, man. When two men are able to communicate as men, you're able to come to a common ground on why things are the way they are with any kid. You know,
right.
everybody don't have to be rah-rah all of it all the time. I can communicate with his dad and we understand, as opposed to someone trying to communicate with our parents back in the day who don't get what is really being said.
Right. Right. Absolutely, man. So that's a great point, man. I appreciate all those answers, just the challenges. And that's what we're really looking to do. That's what I'm really looking to do at ARC. Improve that communication, kind of highlight, give everybody from parents to coaches to athletes tools that we can use to improve that communication and to, know what to expect in certain situations. Cool.
One of the
So
things,
go
well,
ahead.
one of the things I wanted to touch on that and say, so we talked about the mentality, but the emotional health, the emotional thing
Right.
for me back then was now that I'm able to see this now as I'm older, right? So my attitude came out, was due to hurt. It was due to pain, right? It
Right.
was due to me like me cursing coaches out before, man. That came from an anger, right? And that anger was from a need that wasn't being met somewhere, right?
Yes. Come on.
Somewhere, was a need that wasn't met. I wouldn't say I have daddy issues, right? But it was times it's like now that I look back on it, if I had the father to me that I am the father to my kids, totally different ball game. I cut
Right.
the coach out. I need to know I'm getting checked when I get what you cutting grown man's out for.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? What happened? That
Right.
anger, the chip that was on my shoulder was angry. And it was times where I felt that football was getting taken away, and my reaction was in an aggressive way. I'm cussing the coach out. Man, you ain't letting me do what I want to do. I cussed the coach out a few times, man. And if regardless of what age, if my son did that, it's like I just got to get a phone call. Who he did what and what happened? Oh, don't worry about it. I got it.
Got it. On
So
it. Right.
that emotional thing was like we never know when we were kids if it's an unmet need, right? It's an unmet need that we displaying outwardly.
Right.
And just think about the emotional thing back then. I didn't know how to handle that, So I was aggressive in a lot of things I do. I took it out on a lot of people, you know what I'm saying? I
Right.
would look back sometimes, be like, damn, I did that. I did that. How did that coach take that when I said that, right? They had to be heard. And all the different things go through my head as an adult now, able to say these things out loud.
You
But
understand it.
back then, it was just anger.
And it's interesting that you say like back then I didn't know, right? And so that's the value of like the coaching community coming together and everyone coming together to talk about these things now, create a bigger platform. Like those topics in sports to me just have to be talked about more often. Have to be talked about just as much as developing speed, right? Has to be talked about. And that's why I appreciate you on here, because you give that unique perspective from all three levels and understand it. We're going to just continue to work, man. We got some stuff to do, not only for this city, but for sports everywhere, man. I consider you my brother, and I consider an advocate to go on this trip, this road with me of making mental conditioning a regular part of every sports practice, man. No doubt. Last three questions, man, I want to ask you before we get out of here. Past or present, which coach would you want to coach with?
Like you talking about like
Dead or alive?
Famous coaches and all of that?
Any coach, dead or alive, which coach would you want to coach with?
if I wanted to keep coaching dead or alive, and I'm gonna say, man, Coach Alonzo Carter, man, Coach Alonzo Carter, man, McClymonds, he's at San Jose State now, man. Zoe always empowered his coaches, right? And you see the coaching carousel that comes over under Zoe, he's still in connection with them today, right? But Zoe is why he's doing so good at San Jose State. He was always a good recruiter. He had a good mouth. He shot straight. You know what I'm saying? He shot straight. And I remember even as a player at Tech, when Zoe found out my family was from West Oakland, he like, dude, what the hell are you doing at Tech? Right? And it was a time where I almost went and enrolled in McClymonds, right? Because Zoe had that gift for the gab. He knew how to do it, right? But he empowered all his coaches and he taught them how to coach and to think bigger than what it is, right? Coach Zoe was the one that if a kid that if somebody coming to recruit one of his kids at McClymonds, but he know you over here at Tech, he'll send the coach over to Tech. Man, those are the type of genuine coaches that, hey, it's not just about my program. Man, you that Tech that you looking who you looking for? I don't got one of them over here, man, but Tech got Mikey Denard, man. Go talk to him.
Right.
That's Zoe, man.
That's dope.
Those type of genuine coaches that, man, I will always want to be around.
Men of good character.
High character.
And so now thinking about what athlete, past or present, if you had the opportunity to coach them.
Terrell Owens. I would wanted to coach Terrell Owens, man. I think T.O. needed. So T.O. also, he was a receiver back then, 90s, a guy like that, man. But he needed a Mike Singletary type of coach, right? This shit ain't get your ass off my field. Remember, Mike Singletary had to get off the field, right? I think we all need the coaches like that. That's going to like I tell my players too, man. I'm gonna coach you hard, but I'm gonna love on you harder, right? We needed them coaches that's going to coach hard, love hard, and help us understand, right? So we look at the whole grand scheme of things with T.O. acting out. What was his unmet need that had him acting like that as an adult, right? And I would have loved to have been coaching and be able to have those conversations and talks because phenomenal athlete, right? And sometimes the phenomenal athletes don't reach their high potential. T.O., Chad Ochocinco, like I want to them the coach dudes I would have coached. Of course, I'm picking receivers to coach, right? Understand it more, but those are two I would have loved. Like, man, hold on, man, y'all understanding you're this and that and messing up. So one of the things I do like about Coach Prime is he preparing them kids for the world. He let them know, like, hey, this is what the world. This ain't acceptable. This is what it is. I'm preparing you for what it is, right? Girls go come your way. So you bringing in girls groupies that let you know, oh, this is how we gonna get you when we
this is how we get down. Give them game.
When you get the bag, the girls are coming saying, when you get the bag, this is how we gonna come at you when you get the bag, right?
Yeah, so that was a shout out to Coach Prime because that was brilliant to bring.
You gotta love coaches that prepare you for the world, you know.
Cool, man. I appreciate you, man. Thank you, y'all, for tuning in. This is a gold episode here.
One question I got before we leave. I got a question. I know you're doing your. I want to help support your business, man. I think the mindset of an athlete is really big. We had a young lady. She worked with the Seminoles with us one time, and now I think she's on the staff doing the mental psychology thing over for Bishop O'Dowd athletes, right? But this thing is big, man, because we already talked about, I think all athletes need to go see a sports psychologist, right?
Absolutely.
The mindset, the things you got to deal with. Like, I'm not sure if LeBron got one, but if he didn't have one, how would he survive all these years of it just hate, right? Hate, being compared to who he might say Michael Jordan was the greatest. And being compared to that and trying to live up to that every day. Like mentally, if you're not mentally tough for that, man, it'll cause you to break down, right? Yeah. All of those things. So people need to be talking to you guys like that, right? Doing it, man, whatever you can tap into. I saw your post, man, what you're going to be doing with the OEL, man, that's great. All of those things. So I want to commend you for even stepping into that avenue and arena to even want to help these young kids that's going to go. Because as a young kid, they're going through puberty, they're going through lifestyle changes, friends changes, and trying to meet their dreams, right? How do you unpack all of that, man? So I can't wait till you get that. I want to support that in every arena. with a big debate. I'm not sure if you've been knowing it, the big private school, public school, OAL debate, man. And I would love for you, because what happens is, and this is how Prince and became a part of the other thing, right? He don't get some of the things that
You ain't
other
never been
people
there.
get,
Right.
because they be like, man, you're a private school kid. You don't need this. And I'd be like, bullshit. That's a good service for him to have, man.
Right.
So I want to help you do it, but keep your doors open, because there's a lot of kids that I already talked about it. Like, what happens to that 12th grade athlete who don't sign a scholarship? What's the mentor in him, right? They need to come talk to Frank. And I don't care if they're in an OEL, private school, whoever, they need to come see somebody, because they mentor is, I didn't put so much work in. I did everything right by the book, and it didn't work out. What's my next step? And they need someone like you to help unpack it, man. So the moment everything start, man, hey, I'm sending it. Go talk to
Man, I appreciate it.
So I appreciate you, man.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I'm looking forward to all the great work that is to be done. And my goal is always to partner and uplift as many coaches as I can, as many parents, help as many parents as I can to support and service these young people and prepare them for the world, man. So this is just a start, man. This is just a start. I'm definitely gonna have you back, man.
Please, man.
Definitely,
Have me back
man.
the new things. Once Prince get to high school, I'll get back on and say what it's like being the full-time parent and not a coach, man. And what
You know what's gonna be dope though is because I'm gonna have both of y'all on at the same time.
Hey, he needed, man. We've been working on it, man. He needs to work on how to talk to the public, man. How to talk to people,
right?
Man. Like, I think that's one of the highest traits that all athletes need. How do you publicly speak, and how do you talk to people, and get your mind right? And man, whatever you got going, man, just let me know.
I will, man. Thank y'all for tuning in. It's another episode of Accelerated Results Coaching Podcast. And remember, we just want to see you win. Peace.
Appreciate it.